Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 99 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos, joined by Tettles.
That is a big number. Welcome.
And Trell as well.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Hello, and welcome to our new time as well. This is our new permanent time slot in theory, which is Thursday.
Subject to change.
We'll see. We'll test it out, of course. But if it works well, this will be when we do our show. This week we have a bunch of stuff to cover. Our main topics are going to be WoW related, but of course, a big thing going on in the community right now that deserves being talked about is the lawsuit, everything going on at Blizzard, the walkout as well. So we figured we'd cover that at the top and then go into the game stuff after that. So for those who don't know, there's a pretty disturbing lawsuit that the state of California, after a 2-year investigation, has filed last week against Blizzard, alleging a bunch of hostile workplace and sexual harassment stuff involving a lot of the top people either in the past at Blizzard or including some people currently still there. This led to a large reaction from the community and from the other Activision Blizzard employees, leading with an initial response from the company that the employees were largely unhappy with, and so they ended up doing a walkout yesterday as of the time of recording this. A lot of streamers as well
awesome.
took off their streams for the day as well, or didn't stream WoW stuff. And yeah, it's unclear where it's going to go from here, but it's definitely big news in the community. I mean, it's awful stuff that is happening there at Blizzard, and just all around, it's bad all around. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation that seems like it keeps unfolding every day. It just feels like something new comes out, more and more stuff. There's like that Kotaku article as well yesterday, which is
that dude,
hard to read.
very hard. That man, and it definitely
from the 2013 BlizzCon stuff.
Yeah.
Is that article?
Yeah, that the one that broke all that news. So, anyways, I mean, I don't think we want to go too much into specifics here. We don't want to necessarily to cover those for people that don't want to hear, or might not be able to hear about that kind of stuff right now. But it is, that information is all out there, and definitely something to educate yourself about if you are able to. This has caused a lot of domino reactions, I would say, in the community as well. We've seen a lot of high-profile people consider leaving or scaling down their involvement with Blizzard stuff, including Preach, who we'll talk about later, but has always been, I think, a big inspiration for me, at least, in the space.
For me too.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy, I met that guy in person many times too. Love that guy to death.
Yeah, JB had a tweet about it yesterday that was like, when I first met, we were doing a Race to World First event, and then he went off for a couple days to go and host a convention in his own, about him.
PreachCon.
PreachCon. And JB was like, at the time I didn't get it, but now I do. And I get it as well. I think that's, man, that guy is a giant, and wherever he goes next, I hope that it owns, and definitely sad to see him go here. Obviously, anybody who feels like they don't want to play WoW or stuff anymore should be free to do that. Also, don't harass the employees of Blizzard that are choosing to stay, or the streamers choosing to continue stream the game. I don't think that that's the move forward. Maybe you think I'm a little biased because I plan to continue streaming the game, but I don't think.
Well, I think it just boils down. It's our main point of sharing this on the podcast in the first place is that you can't fight hate with hate, and anytime there's something like this that comes out, we just want everyone to know that the only thing you can really do about it is be a good person yourself and be a good influence. So that's what all three of us try to do, and we encourage everyone that listens to do the same.
I'm pretty interested in what happens at Activision Blizzard, and certainly like if they're, if they sweep this thing under the bridge and like rehire the people that were named in this thing a couple of years down the line, like other major game studios that have been accused of this kind of stuff in the past couple of years have done, then that would be extremely disappointing for me. But definitely, I mean, there's not much to do now besides see how it plays out and everything. So yeah, that's what's going on with that in the community today. And I guess let's go on to the rest of the show, hard as that is to follow. All right, so we're back from Race to World First. That's where Tettles and myself were, hanging out with Trell down in down in Dallas. For
Yeehaw country.
yeah, we met up as well. We hung out for a couple hours as well, which was pretty sweet. I think that in terms of you good
Torchy's Tacos for anyone from the area. They had some of the local good tacos. I'm biased, but
they were
if you ever
quite
visit
good.
the Dallas area or anywhere in Texas, go to Torchy's.
Yeah. So that was nice. It's always nice. I mean, the last in-person event before all the lockdowns was the Nyalotha Race to World First for me, and then it was just lockdowns for a year and a half, and then we had this event.
I mean, those. As funny as it sounds, we almost got trapped in LA doing MDI. Do you remember that? Like they were in the process of moving us all to LA for the MDI. Like we were 1 week out, and then everything got locked down.
I could see the lockdown coming like a week and a half before it did, though, and I asked them several times, like, "Are you guys sure you're gonna move us out for this?" But man, yeah, if that schedule had been 1 week earlier, we would have probably like been half moved, and then they would have shut it down, and we would have like driven back or something. But like everything would have been closed because those first couple weeks of the first lockdown, like everything was closed.
Yeah. You're in California at least, Ratness. How the fuck am I supposed to get back to Missouri from LA?
Road trip, gang.
Shit.
But yeah, so that, I mean, it was really nice to get to see everybody hang out again as well. Love hanging out with all the Limit people. Those guys are so cool. They of course did lose this race to World First to Echo though, who, I mean, oh my goodness, Echo looked so good this tier.
Holy shit, yeah.
It was so close too. 0.4% difference between both teams by the end of it.
Yeah, you could make an argument that Limit had Nori not DC'd on one of their pulls. That pull was very trending towards a kill. I think that's probably true. Like I think if you unfroze time, if you froze time, went back to where Nori DC'd and made him not DC, I think they probably do get the world first. But I don't know. It's really hard. There's a lot of moving parts there, and I don't think anybody from Limit would argue that Echo played just so well and better consistently over the course of that race to world first. I mean, they just looked phenomenal. Limit almost stole it at the end. They almost yoinked it back, but didn't quite come to pass, but it was really, really close.
Yeah, I think that Limit really did show up well on Sylvanas specifically, but they lost, I feel like, so many attempts just on Painsmith and KT that they could have had additional time on Sylvanas for in like a different reality.
Yeah, so raid, the texture of the raid is rather interesting as well, because we have our first three bosses, which fall over in one pull, right, for those guilds. Then we had Soul Render and Remnant, which were both a pretty sizable step up in difficulty. I think a lot of normal mythic guilds are progressing through those bosses now and having a hard time with them, which is, I mean, crazy for bosses 4 and 5 to be that tough. And then you get to Painsmith, and Painsmith is like brutally hard.
But on the upside, if you kill Painsmith, you know that you can clear the rest of the instance.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
Painsmith dies, and then the next three bosses, Guardian, Fatescribe, and Kel'Thuzad, all die before you feel like you've progressed them, really. You like do Guardian once, and you're like, okay, yeah, we gotta land these things, we gotta sort this out, and then you just like, it just dies. And it wasn't a particularly good damage pull or anything. You're not like wiping to enrage over and over again, it just falls over. You do Fatescribe, and like the first pull you get to the last phase and do one mechanic, it dies. You do Kel'Thuzad, and for our guild, literally the first time we made it to the 5th of 7 phases, it died, which is just completely crazy.
Really? That's crazy.
Oh.
I mean, KT's falling over in 20 or 30 pulls for most guilds that are reaching it around now, which is, I mean, it's a crazy small amount of pulls for a second to last boss. That's less even than Carapace, which was very small compared to a lot of the others.
Well, they hotfixed it this most recent reset.
Yeah.
They hotfixed it to make it easier.
Well, it actually makes it harder for so they hotfixed it to remove some of the like mana waiting strat.
Yeah.
And an undocumented part of that hotfix was a change to how some of the mana, like the ability queuing works. So it does require a slightly different strategy than it used to, but it's still it's slightly less annoying.
So from reading it, he starts at 100 mana, so I just assumed that it made the fight a lot easier.
The problem is that it doesn't seem like he does this. He used to do a thing where like when he gets to 5% health, he then doesn't cast anything for 20 seconds, and it doesn't seem like he does that anymore. At least we couldn't figure out how to do it that way, so we just killed it, assuming it didn't do that at all. but also maybe we're dumb.
Yeah, that'd be heavily exploitable.
Yeah, Kel'Thuzad was a weird one during Race to World First though. That boss, it got kind of smashed by Echo. Echo rolled up and killed it in 20 pulls. World first. Yeah, world first on KT. Whereas Limit had pulled it about 50 times the day before and not quite gotten it. But then once they saw how Echo did it, they just rolled back in and did it too.
That's an interesting part about how the race works, since they're on different time zones completely. Like, Limit spent a long time on that boss, went to sleep, and then by the time they woke up, Echo had done a completely different strategy and killed the boss in like 20 pulls. That's like, oh crap, what did we do wrong here? How do we come back from this,
What do you guys think about both guilds using that Fate Scribe cheat death trinket to ignore the...
This is an overstated part of the strategy. The cheat death trinket is much less important than the timing delays that Echo was doing, which Limit wasn't doing, and that's why their pulls were so bad. But you didn't need those the cheat death trinkets at all. That was just that was the part that like looked exploity or whatever about it. But you could tell because Limit walked up week 2 after that was fixed and one shot it without any of that effect, just by still doing the same timing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I mean. It doesn't surprise me that they put that trinket in, though, and that's how it worked, right? The trinket where you die and you just get to res yourself, and you use that to cheese mechanic.
Like when you make something like that, you have to think, of course, someone's going to find a way to abuse this on a fight, right?
It is funny that it's literally the boss after Fate Scribe that has that interaction, or that had that interaction.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah, true.
now gone. Then with Sylvanas, we had the boss not die at 50%. I don't know, it's kind of fading into memory now, but wow, there was outcry about that. So on Heroic and Normal, it dies at 50%. On LFR, we don't know yet, but probably dies at 50% as well. But on Mythic, dies at 45.
On LFR dies at 0.
No idea how it works on LFR. We have to wait for World First LFR in like a month. But Echo had this Night of Prague on like Friday or Saturday, where they were just like, Sylvanas, they started the night at 65, and they were just like 61, 52, 52, 52, 51, 51, 51, 51, 49. Wait, the boss didn't die. And there was a lot of angst about the implication there. A big take that was going around was this just cements that there's Blizzard just designing the boss to die reset number 2. There's no way any guilds will kill it this first reset. Which is obviously extremely stupid.
16-hour diff.
Yeah, so I mean, the 16 So here's the thing. Blizzard got very lucky. They got very lucky that the boss that they tuned to be barely killable week 1 was killed week 1, right? Because either Echo or Limit could have won on week 1 by killing it week 1, right? But if neither did, Limit wins that by default, right? Limit rolls up in there 16 hours earlier on the second reset and literally one-shot Sylvanas on their second reset.
The next day.
And so that would have happened very likely for World First if Echo hadn't played quite as out of their minds as they did. So Blizzard got very lucky that the 16-hour advantage wasn't the narrative of this race, but wow, it was close. I don't know exactly what the way around this is. I think probably the answer is don't have bosses killable at all week 1. Make them die like mid-week 2 or the end of week 2.
I feel like the last 2 bosses could be tuned that way, at least.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, if KT took a couple hundred pull, or 150 pulls, right? Like, that means that no guild's gonna have enough time on Sylv week 1.
Yeah.
The problem is if you shift it from being, like, killable late week 1 to killable early week 2, that is big 16-hour zone as well, right? It's like the mid to late week 2 or mid to late week 1 that's safe.
The biggest issue with this raid in general for the world first purposes is, okay, so Painsmith was 100 to 150 pulls, fine. KDT also needed to be 150 pulls, and that puts Sylvanas at like Monday when Echo and Limit both start progressing it, which then will have it die like midway into second reset.
Yeah, I think that would have worked out reasonably well. I don't know, I mean, it was really cool to see them progressing on this boss that was like so beautifully tuned for that week. It's just the problem of like it was tuned on this knife's edge if you can kill it if you play perfectly. But like, if that hadn't happened, if a guild hadn't played it perfectly, the raid would have been such a disaster for Race to World First narrative.
How do you feel about the narrative of the raid as a whole for Echo and Limit specifically?
I mean, I don't think you can complain about a race that was that close, right? I think that overall, You know, maybe Blizzard got lucky about it. Maybe there's lessons they should learn, even though bad stuff didn't happen. But bad stuff didn't happen in the Race to World First this time. This was a beautiful, beautiful race.
I do think it was worth. I think it was worth mentioning that the like Fate Scribe was kind of underwhelming. You know, that could have been a crazy fight for sure, with the beams going opposite directions, and they were all just going the same direction, so it was pretty simple. Kel'Thuzad obviously dying at 20 pulls is like a pin ultimate boss dying that fast is always a huge shock.
Guardian,
and then
Guardian as well.
Being, yeah, Guardian as well. Like a single target check that wasn't really that hard. Like they figured it out way too quick. And then Painsmith being honestly really, really difficult. And like the brick wall right in the middle of the raid was really cool. Like they could have made that the penultimate boss. Honestly.
I was
sick boss.
You know that meme of the guy in just increasing excitement, right?
Yeah.
Where he's just like getting it's just like, oh, Soul Render, Remnant, Painsmith, and then just like Resident Sleeper, the next 3 bosses. You know, I'm just like, man, this is a bit of a letdown. But overall, I don't know. You got some good bosses, you got some bad ones. This raid definitely for Race World First. Both Painsmith and Sylvanas were very good to watch. For progression purposes, you know, I don't know. For when everybody else actually reaches it, we'll have to see. It is a little bit weird with how much more powerful we're getting each week from gearing up this tier. Also, I think shoutouts are owed to the whole top 5 as well, which all finished within like what another day and a half or so of limit, which is, you know, crazy. This is the closest that Pieces, BDGG, and Method have been to the top since Pieces obviously won World First back in Crucible of Storms. So big excitement for the race in future. I think that to some extent the texture of the raid led to that as well. The fact that those 3 bosses died so quick, the fact that week 2 gear was such a power spike, led to that grouping of kills, you know, early week 2 for the guilds that are a little behind Limit and Echo, but still, that's good news for all 3 of those orgs, and good news for us fans of the race.
Do you think the gap is closing?
I think it closed relative to Nathria, yeah, but on the other hand, Nathria was the opposite, right? Nathria had Stone Legion generals just brick wall everybody, and like Limit and Echo barely snuck through and then killed Sire real quick, right? So that tier, Limit and Echo killed Sire before any other guilds had pulled it, which is a crazy stat. And this tier, like 10 guilds were working on Sylvanas when World First was claimed. So, I don't know. I think that these are the kind of the extreme edges of the spectrum.
Well, I certainly enjoyed watching the race. Like I watched the 50% pull by Echo live. They were so excited, and then like all the memes that came from Roger and Scribe's faces. I saw that live, and I was like, "Oh no!"
You knew that they were just. It's like that Reddit. It's like that Reddit page where it's like r/watch people die inside or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's so accurate.
Just watch their soul drain from their body as that boss doesn't die.
It's so interesting how something like a raid in World of Warcraft can create such a enthralling thing to watch when 2 different teams from 2 different continents battle each other out. Like the drama around just the 50% push and some people knowing that there was like data mined info that she had a secret thing at 45% happen. So they're like, oh, we knew all along, you know. And then I think probably some of the people at Echo knew about that too, but then we're also surprised because they wanted to win, of course.
Nobody was sure. Nobody was sure that it died at 50 or 45 is the thing.
Yeah, but it was weird to me that it seemed like none of the Echo people even had like a suspicion that it died at 45, especially since it was like rumored the whole entire week following that it could potentially die at 45. Like I thought it was gonna die at 50. Like to be clear, I thought it was gonna die at 50.
Dude, I think you're retconning how long we knew about the 45 thing in advance. I do not remember hearing people talk about 45 until the morning that Echo got 50 beforehand. And like I know the BDGG people knew about it beforehand and stuff, and obviously Siori and stuff from Limit knew about it beforehand as well. But like it was not popular knowledge that 45 was the potential number. All we knew was like, oh, we assume it dies at 50, but we don't know for sure.
I mean, I guess Tags told me about it on like Friday, but even then it was like...
It was not the word 45 didn't go on stream until I think Echo didn't kill it at 50.
I mean, I'm not saying shit.
Yeah. I don't know. It was really cool. I think that the Race World First is unique in the space. There's not really anything else like it on Twitch, so it's very cool to see.
Sure, yeah. It's so unique.
I do think that Blizzard should, obviously, once they sort out their much more important stuff, consider dealing with the Race to World First in some sense of like maybe try and preempt the 16-hour thing from being an issue, because it came so close to being just a consuming narrative that might have led to the end of the Race to World First as we know it as well, potentially. Like, if I could see a world where if Limit rolls up and one-shots that thing at 10 a.m. on Tuesday after Echo, like, has been having 46% wipes. Like,
all night.
All night, yeah. I could see a world where it's like, everybody's like, all right, well, this is dumb, I'm not going to watch this anymore. And if you think about that from Blizzard's perspective, right? Like, the game, the Race to World First is something they invest basically $0 into, and their game is the biggest one on Twitch while it's going on, which is, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like unheard of.
Yeah,
that's the biggest community investment I've
and
ever
so
seen.
like certainly they should keep their hands off of it too much, right? You don't want to mess with something that's succeeding, but also it's very clear that there are ways this thing could go horribly wrong, and like if you just keep letting this happen every tier, eventually there's going to be a narrative that is not good for the integrity of the race.
Well, it's just a 16-hour advantage thing that I think needs
Yeah.
to be fit, right? I think basically every other thing, like I don't think this needs to be on tournament realms. I don't think this needs to be. I don't think any of that needs to happen. I think basically it just there needs to be some resolution for the 16-hour stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever they find that may be.
Yeah, I think it is something that is just lurking as a thing that will, do a lot of damage to the race. Now, Blizzard is lucky with WoW in general and with the Race to World First in particular that there's not really another MMO that really competes in that space, right? Like, there's not another MMO that really does M+. There's not an MMO that has a Race to World First, anything like what WoW has, but at some point soon there might be, and if that ever comes to pass, then all of a sudden all the stuff they took for granted may move on. So they got to be careful, especially with the lack of community goodwill that they're cultivating right now. Okay, let's move on to tip of the week. Woo-woo! My tip of the week is if you are using Shards Domination a lot and you're swapping between them, consider using the Narcissus add-on. That's NARCISSUS. That's SUS at the end, like sus, like from Among Us. Okay, so this add-on...
Thanks for clarifying.
I could see Tuttle's grinning, so I wanted to...
This is ongoing MDI bit.
So this add-on, it does a lot of stuff. It does a lot of nice stuff for, like, you can have a nice screen for when you're AFK on stream, and nice ways of displaying your character's stats and stuff. But it is, in my opinion, the best one for shard management. When you open up a domination socketed item, it'll give you a nice window that lets you just click a button to extract shard, and then it will show you all of your shards to socket in if you want to click on one when you open an unsocketed item. And on your character pane, it'll give you an icon you can mouse over to say what all your shards are, and it'll show if you have a set bonus or not. So all in all, I think pretty great.
And so if I'm missing my 3 unholy shards, then what does it do? Does it just give me a big frowny face?
It will just, when you mouse over your character pane, it won't have the Chaos Bane icon. It'll have no set bonus icon.
It'll just say unlucky in all caps.
Yeah. You still got to double check, but it makes it easy to do the little swaps really quick and see what you're using. All right, Charles, what is your tip of the week?
So my tip is to do with all the extra anima we have suddenly. My anima reservoir, my covenant has been filled up at 35k for like 2 weeks straight. So I just sit with all this anima in my bags. And I ran out of cosmetics and mounts to buy from the covenant vendor in the back of the hall. So eventually what I had to do was just buy something for 5,000 anima and then delete it out of my bags like a couple times to clear space. And then you can go over to your reservoir and get rid of all that anima in your bags in one click. So that is my tip on how to clear your bags efficiently.
Oh, I have news for you. They just added an anima vendor near the Great Vault as well. So you can spend like 20,000 anima.
Oh my god, rip my tip.
On like 5 Korthite crystals if you want. It is not a good exchange rate.
I'm mad.
Yeah, but that's the move.
I just deleted like 30k anima. Like
you're missing out on like 10 Korthite crystals. It's not much, but
I don't want to. Okay, I've spent minutes deleting this fucking anima.
Dude, it's right by the like as you walk into the Great Vault room on your right. There's a vendor that will sell you like I think the Korthite crystal is the best deal, and it is not a good deal, but it does let you delete your anima quickly.
Trade offer. Cleaning out your bags. 1 Korthite crystal.
All right, Tuttles, what's our clip of the weekend? Do we need sound?
No, we don't need sound.
All
It
right, this
speaks
one's
for
from
itself.
Yummy TV.
Oh, this is good.
This is an
Oh,
excellent
I know
clip.
what this is gonna be.
I don't know why this is legal. Why is this a legal maneuver from
All right, let's run that one again. Oh yeah, here it comes.
This happens every time there's something new in the game. Quaking causes this.
Well, the sick part is not only does it group you, but Sagadon has an increased physical damage taken aura, and that
Yes.
thing is Fizz.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, in terms of actual tip against that, if you pull Sagadon when your Quake is coming out, like when you have a Quake circle around you, you won't get that overlap. That's the easiest way to remember it.
It's like you can pull them like 20 to 15 seconds before the next Quake. So I think Quaking comes in 20-second intervals.
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
it just goes off, you're good. Up until about 5 seconds after, you can pull them.
Yeah, or
It'll
5
not
seconds
matter.
before is also safe. But if you're closer to that mid between Quakes time, that's when you're likely to get into that overlap.
Dude, okay, so apparently there's some like a longer or shorter grace period between the first between starting and the first one. But then every single one after that is 20-second intervals apart.
It's
And
20.
so,
It's like 19 or it's slightly desyncs every time, but you kill that thing very fast.
I was in a group and every single one overlapped with him gripping us. It was so trash.
That's so funny.
So funny. I even talked about that with some people I was playing with the first day of the week. I was like, this is going to happen at some point this week. And then that clip came out within like 1 hour.
Hours.
Yeah.
Hours, yes.
All right, let's move on to talking about the stuff that's been going on with Sanctum in the last couple weeks, which have included some Shard of Domination surprise nerf into surprise revert. That was the drama from... Well, it's not the main drama, obviously, but a piece of drama that joined in with the crowd for a little bit.
What's the more surprising part? The nerf or the revert?
Yeah, so they came in, they nerfed Unholy by 50, Blood by 40, and Frost by 17, and then they reverted it about 90 minutes later. And it's unclear whether they intend to do it on reset. There's a good chance they will, but it's also unconfirmed what they're going to do about it.
Yeah, there is a tweet that implies that it's going to come back on reset from lead system designer Jeff Hamilton. But
Yeah, let me pull that thing up.
With how much backlash there was, it is unconfirmed for sure whether or not that nerf does come in.
Yeah, so here's the tweet that says, it should have been with resets, that's my bad. Messed up / didn't indicate that. So, yeah, I think it's something that they intend to do, probably because they intend to not have the raid be getting as much easier with each passing week as it is, and as it has the last couple weeks. But on the other hand, doing it at this time has the problem of, instead of our power going up every week, which feels good, there's going to be a week whenever they do choose to do this where our power will go down instead. And one of the things about MMOs is that it does not feel good when your character's power goes down.
It's going to be like a huge nerf, too. It's not just going to be like 100 DPS off your sim. It's going to be several hundred damage off everyone's sims, at least.
500 DPS.
Yeah, 500.
I mean, quite literally, it's like you're not going to be getting more powerful for a week, or you will get slightly less powerful, maybe.
And it's also like people were already at 4 out of 5 ranks on their sub bonuses. I think in all the Hall of Fame guilds, at least, probably mid-tier guilds, I'd say rank 2, 3 on their sets, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's already halfway or more than halfway through the power progression through the raid of your at least the specific raids set system.
Right.
Like, you could have at least done it week 1 or something.
That's the thing is, it's not like people haven't been clamoring for this change during all of the PTR cycle during the first week of this patch. Right, like people were asking for like this exact change, or just the relative balancing of the 3 set bonuses to be more equalized, and it just fell on completely deaf ears. And then to do it mid tiers, like that's the one time this is bad to do. Right, this change would have been fantastic 1 month ago, but now that we have the power, taking it away, I mean, it makes that awful experience of killing a boss you've already killed becoming progression again, and that is not fun for anybody. So I mean, I think that they should leave it alone. I think that they should, if anything, buff Blood and Frost, maybe leave Blood, buff Frost, buff Blood a little, maybe nerf Unholy by 10% or something, but doing this kind of massive nerf on these 3 sets, I don't think they should do it after guilds have killed bosses with them. If they do, I think they should consider some compensating Like, I mean, I think that, yeah, it sucks that the raid is easier than they'd like it to be, but given it's already been that easy for a couple weeks now, right? And then they shouldn't make it harder after guilds have killed those bosses. I think you make you tune it before everybody kills the bosses, not after.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, I mean, the biggest concern for me is like those frost shards. I think that there is not an insignificant chance that that frost bonus may be good for something like rogue and enhancement shaman.
Yeah, if they were to do this kind of nerf, it would again fit into that theme of this expansion where they design these systems in such a way where if they then have to make balance changes, people have retroactively made the wrong decisions, right? Where it's like you just, I mean, I remember even getting a tip. Do you remember the first time when you cleansed your Void Ritual and then they buffed Void Ritual by 300%?
I was so salty, salty.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, oh, you know, I picked Kyrian and they buffed Venthyr. You know, I picked this legendary and they nerfed it. Like, I built my legendary in this slot and now I have to recraft it. All of these feelings of like, I invested, right? I invested into something and then my investment was made wrong by a balance patch.
I spent all my gold on one Echoing Void piece that got nerfed the next week.
It's not even like a 0.5 patch. Okay, so if it's a 0.5 patch that they have like notes for, that's like on a PTR cycle that's coming like really far in advance, and we all know about it. You know what? Fine, I can accept the nerf. I can accept my character getting a little bit weaker. Right? That's just the state of the game. It is in flux a little bit. It's just a random hot fix on what is this? Reset 3 of the raid or something?
Yeah, I mean, I wish they just had a little humility when they were designing these systems and either listened to the feedback during the PTR cycle and made the 3 set bonuses balanced, which, by the way, this isn't rocket surgery. You could tell the Unholy bonus was the best one by, like, putting them on for 2 minutes on a target dummy on PTR, right? So it's not like this is that hard to have seen coming. Or, if you're going to design these systems like this, maybe just build in a way where you can nerf them and like refund people, right? Like, could you imagine if from the start they made sure it was coded in such a way that they could press a button and just everybody's shards would get reverted to rank 1, all of our Stygian Embers would come back? Like, that would remove the huge downsides associated with changing the relative values of Blood, Frost, and Unholy after people have spent their shards on, or their Stygian Embers on it, but they lack this like, oh, there's a chance we might have to nerf this, like, are players going to feel bad about their investment? Thought process.
They've done this with a lot of different systems, though. I mean, I remember Legion Legendaries. There was like acquisition process of Legion Legendaries was outcried for months on the beta going to Legion, and then it just went live as it was. People continued to complain about it. Okay, then we had corruption, which we saw on the beta. People complained about it. It went live as it was on the beta. It ended up having to get changed later on.
And like both of those systems got fixed eventually.
Yeah.
And I think that both were pretty great systems by the time the expansions ended. But like,
yeah, both of those were.
If your system is bad for the first 3 months of the patch and then good for the next 6 months, it's a bad system. Like, you screwed up. Those first 3 months are way more important than the next 6.
I don't understand. Okay, I don't mean to be super negative here, but I don't understand why it's always like this, where the players see the writing on the wall with how like ridiculous some of these changes are going to be, and like how it impacts the player perspective, and then the developers just will be very heavy-handed and still go ahead with the change. Like, I don't understand what is the point of the Shards of Domination in their current like.
I mean, Shards just. I mean, it's a perfect storm of like all of these problems and just no redeeming characteristics whatsoever. There's no single good thing done by Shard of Domination. Like,
yeah,
ever.
And I don't mean to be like too down, but I just do not simply understand it.
And like,
maybe one day. But...
I'm pretty okay with systems that have, you know, downsides and upsides, right? Like, I'm actually I liked Legion artifacts, Legion legendaries. Even though those systems, you know, they had their problems, right? The AP grind, there are all these valid complaints that people had about those systems, but there was real, you know, weight and upside to them as well. And this system seems like it just has all of those annoying micromanagements and recrafting your legendary, all these slots in your Great Vault that you can't click on, you know, all of these problems. And the benefit is like, you deal 1% increased damage to, you know, all targets. You deal 2% increased damage when you first hit a new target. You deal 2% increased damage to targets below 50% health. Like, I mean, where's the gameplay here?
Have you guys gotten a non-usable... Okay.
There's not even like a leather specific bonus, like how they were kind of gravitating towards over time, away from class specific. Now it's not even armor set bonus. It's completely generic. Like it's minimal effort as far as you can go on the board.
Have you
And
guys
like
gotten a non-usable thing from your vault yet? Like a non-usable vault, like a full vault.
No.
like something you'll replace eventually.
No, like a vault with
Yeah.
no choice that you would like a vault where you would pick the bottom option, right?
I haven't gotten one yet, but I'm getting close.
I've seen some screenshots of 9-item vaults where that happened, but of course, I mean that's going to happen, right? Some people are going to run into that. It definitely. I mean,
It's
it does.
definitely going to happen soon.
Right, the rows that aren't the raid rows are pretty bad this patch because of the system largely.
I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you
Yeah.
saying, Terrell?
Oh, I was just going to finish the thought on the domination charts. They could have added a simple system. I think it was actually Dreadnoughts that reminded me of this, but they could have added like a box that you could just put all your gems in and choose which ones were currently active on your gear instead of having to like worry about accidentally deleting them doing something normal.
Oh, the fact you can
guilty!
delete your domination shards because they like didn't think about, how you actually would resocket them is wild beyond belief to me. That's happened to people in every single guild I've talked to has had people in it that have done that.
Dude, my guildie.
Yeah, several people in mine
Echo
too.
and Limit, by the way, have both had members do it as well.
They ticket it, and you know what they say? I'm
Can't
sorry,
fix
we
it.
can't fix this. It was just like, dude, why can't you fix this? I thought the system was just supposed to work.
It just works.
That's a meme in our guild now. We're just like, it just works. And then we tell the
Frankly,
guy,
that's a skill issue.
I'm sorry about your friend who lost his gems, but it just works.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a loss for words about the system for sure.
It's insane. And then continuing on what Tuttles was saying is, like six slots I think are taken up by domination gear plus legendary. Is there anything else?
No, don't think so.
No, nothing
That's like-
mandatory.
That is literally the exact same amount of slots that the tier sets in Legion would have taken, and that they said they didn't want to do again.
Plus the two
They're like-
legendaries.
Legion had those
Yeah,
two
plus
legendaries as
legendary.
well, but there was a little bit more flexibility, right? If you want to wear 5 domination sockets and a specific legendary, that is 6 exact slots, right? Unlike tier sets where it's like, okay, you can fill any 4 of these 6. Although then, if you were doing 2-piece, 4-piece, it was even less flexible. I will give you that.
Yeah, the 2-piece, 4-piece, and then you had like legendaries that had to be specific slots or not. That kind of stuff also factored in a little bit. It was a lot of stuff there, but even then.
But then you got tier sets out of it, right? You got a set bonus. Whereas
You got
here,
tier set
class
bonuses.
specific bonus that was awesome. Like
Here
those set
you get-
bonuses were so sick.
Chaos Bane, primary stat. It
So
stacks up,
hot.
and then you get a bunch of it at the end, and then it stacks up again. It's like, okay, my
For anyone
game
that's ever
feels
played
the same.
Mage, any Mage players, this is like a worse version of Incanter's Flow, the talent, and it ramps up so slow, and then instead of slowly going back down at the end, it just drops to 0. So if you have any like long phase where your proc happens at the beginning of that intermission or something, it just disappears completely.
Dude, apparently it can proc just on ambient damage during the Painsmith intermission.
Oh yeah,
Yep. Mhm.
yep.
Our mages were screaming about it last night.
It-
Like, it just procced. They're like, what?
It's like any spell or ability you do. So you don't. It doesn't have to be like a damage. Like you ignited a blazing barrier around you. Oh, proc a Chaos Bane. Very cool.
Vivified myself to live. Oh, there goes all my damage.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean that part I don't really care too much about, but I don't know.
I don't.
It's done.
I mean,
that
that's at
part
least
is
an
not
active
what-
ability.
Yeah. That's not
I do think the set bonuses are the best part about the shards, which is not saying much, but at least there is something there. It's unfortunate that part doesn't even work in like raids and M plus and PvP. I'm glad for the purposes of making it less important to have those shards that they don't work in M plus and PvP, but like, man, the stuff that does work in those is so boring. 1% increased damage or whatever. I'd much prefer it was the other way around, where like, okay, you can get a set bonus, but you can't get any of the actual shard effects, and it's just like, okay, find 3 domination pieces, put some unholy gems in them, go run your keys, and like, hey, maybe you can actually play your cooldowns a little bit around your Chaos Bane. Like that kind of management
Yeah,
is
that
something
actually
you
would be
could do a
cool.
little bit of.
Yeah.
It would at least be a little bit of something.
They need to rethink the system going forward, and never again.
For a
Yeah,
positive thing though, at least some of the gems are pretty good in Mythic Plus. Like the defensive ones for tank players are really good.
Pride Eyes is just good for
Yeah.
everybody. The Pride Eyes one, Shard of Kier, that thing is busted.
Yeah. This is like
So
8%
good.
of my healing at rank 1.
Raiders
as a
should be
Brewmaster.
upgrading that thing as well, because on Sylvanas, the blood damage shard doesn't work. Doesn't do any damage to Sylvanas, so get that thing
Yeah.
out of there.
Oh, really?
Put
I
on,
didn't know that.
yeah, because she dies below or at 45, right? You're never executed. You never have 50% or more
Oh,
health than
sure,
her,
yeah.
really. So get that thing out of there. Put on Brydaz. Trust.
True.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the raid boss fights. We already talked about a little bit about this at the top, but let's talk about this from our perspectives of playing them rather than Race to World first. So I guess first off, let's go around and talk just how many of these bosses have you killed on Mythic versus Heroic? Let's start with you, Tettles. How's your Mythic progression stuff been going?
We're progressing Painsmith. We're like 55 pulls in. It's like 40% left on the boss. We came out of second intermission a couple times, so we're like 35% of the boss. So it's like not too bad. I think overall the fights that I have seen, pretty good to play. Don't hate them. I think that everything that has happened has been pretty good. The Ner'zhul changes this week were I don't really understand that fight anymore. I must admit that they've kind of messed with that fight a lot in a way that I don't.
Yeah,
We one-shot it, but I still don't really understand what happened.
I think that the way so now you actually have to get knocked on the chest instead of MDing the chest. I think
Yeah.
that's good change, but I don't understand why the orbs just fall over and have 0 health now.
Dude, we had 2 Destruction Warlocks. And
Did
the
they
first
fix-
set of balls spawned, and then they died immediately, and the Warlocks immediately both killed their mic. They're like, what the fuck?
Did they fix the spell queuing on that fight?
Yeah, the orb spawning is now not something you can manipulate anymore by pushing at good times. Which, okay, I'm glad. I hate fights where it's like you have to do some like arcane 2-second damage changes to get good push timing. I hate that so much.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, is much of the rest of the raid, Painsmith included. Painsmith is wait for the phase to reach its intermission, or to reach its enrage, push the boss. Fate Scribe, stop damage, okay, push the boss. Kel'Thuzad, the worst offender for this, even with the changes now, even with our strategy, which like is not as much waiting as before, it's still 20 seconds instead of 40 of waiting every phase. So I think that's a big downside, especially as you get to the later half of the raid. Trell, how about you? How's your experience with the raid been so far?
I'm actually pretty close to Tuttle's prog. We're actually a little bit ahead as of the current
Let's
day, but he's
go.
gonna raid a few more days before we do. We're at Painsmith at 20% at 40 pulls in, I believe.
So messed up.
40 pulls, 20%?
Not
Yeah,
bad.
we're owning.
Dude, you're
That's
smoking.
actually sick.
You're smoking, Tettles. Oh,
That boss
moly.
is fun. Painsmith is a really good boss. It's so precision based, and everything happens at a very consistent time if you do the strat correctly. It just feels really good to play. I think I like the first 3 bosses' difficulty curve really well. I think they did a good job of making it so it was like pretty difficult with low gear, at least to step in and just do it right away for a lot of guilds. And then the 4th and 5th bosses are a huge step up. I think that's a good thing in a raid.
Agreed.
Ner'zhul's spell queuing was kind of weird. I wasn't really a huge fan of that boss because of that, and then like it just randomly fell over for us one pull, kind of like the later bosses we were talking about.
So you guys haven't experienced this yet, but once you get to those next 3, Guardian, Fate Scribe, and Kel'Thuzad, which my guild killed Kel'Thuzad yesterday, so that's where I'm at. All 3 of those bosses have this experience of like, you kill it and you're like, what? That was the fight? I don't understand.
Yeah.
You're just like,
Those fights are weird.
This pull was so sloppy. 4 people died a minute before the boss died. The boss died anyways. I don't know what was happening. We never progressed this bit. It just died.
So from a viewer perspective, those fights look like they suck. From a player perspective, did they suck to play too?
I mean, they were okay. Kel'Thuzad sucked. Kel'Thuzad is was just you actually are just like sitting around waiting, and then like there's a couple mechanics that will wipe you in very stupid ways if you don't do them right, but they don't feel particularly satisfying to do right. It's just you do them and you don't really feel smart for doing it. You're just like, okay, well, it's kind of a Stone Legion General style feeling where you're like, this is a dumb kind of difficulty. But unlike Stone Legion Generals, it's 20 pulls instead of 200. We take those. There's a floor on how bad a 20 pull boss can be, and it is dramatically above Stone Legion Generals.
I was just thinking about this just now, so it may be wrong, but I think this expansion, that problem is even worse than usual because every single DPS class is so cooldown based these days. Like, you just do no damage outside of your CDs on so many specs.
Tettles
Man,
is
like, been to your boomkin, by the way.
yeah, he's just sitting there like.
Don't fucking look at me.
We send our boomkins down to the phylactery. They do 700,000 damage to it if they're frenzying, and 100,000 damage if they are not. They do 7 times more damage if they have their cooldown up, basically, which is completely absurd.
The chicken strikes one.
Yeah. I don't know what the solution to this cooldown, saving for phases stuff is, but I hope they find it. I don't know what it would be. Maybe it's just a tight enrage timer that's fight long. And you just put those on bosses. Like Kel'Thuzad just had a 9-minute enrage timer. Oh, all of a sudden this strategy doesn't work. You gotta push.
Yeah, I don't really know how they fix it without redoing classes and stuff, because if you make a fight where you don't need so much burst damage in certain windows, then it's just not nearly as hard. You can just do it with whatever. That's a hard one to crack.
How about this range versus melee discussion? How many melee are you guys fielding in your raids? I know Tettles and I had it. Actually, did we ever resolve this? We had a bet on.
I think you won.
I think I did win. Yeah, on how many melee would be in the world first kill of this boss of Sylvanas. I bet 7, or I bet less than 7. You bet 7 or more, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go find out. You can take a.
Yeah, how many actually were in for the kill?
Dude, that's
probably close. Probably close to 7, but it wasn't probably 6 if I had to guess.
Wait, Sanctum. Okay, let's just find Echo. Terran Mill. Okay, world first kill comp 10 days ago was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 melee. So close.
Yeah.
Tettles came close.
That checks out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think melee this tier are really, really strong as a whole. Like, you can field 7, 8 melee on every single fight, including Sylvanas, right?
But there's almost more boomkins on that roster than there are melee.
God, I hate boomkins.
I'm still convinced that they should have been running that many, but it's fine.
Yeah. Also, wow, look at the Night Fae. Look at the Night Fae dominance here. Of their DPS, of Echo's DPS players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of their players were playing Naya. Not just Fae, Naya. A 12th was playing Karain.
Grove Invigoration is OP.
Grove Invigoration is a hell of a drug.
That is so true.
Also, Survivor's Rally is really, 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 really broken.
The auto Prince of Region.
Yeah, this thing is unbelievably good. When you fall below 50% health, you regain 20% of your health over 10 seconds and receive 10% additional healing from other spells and abilities. Every 60 seconds this thing can proc. This, I think, might be the strongest node on that tree. Yeah.
But don't worry, Blizzard will balance the Covenants and the Soulbinds.
Don't worry, once you have grinded your Renown, you will get the opportunity for a new Covenant to be your best one to go grind Renown for. Yeah, I think also, okay, so range versus melee looks pretty good this year, right? Obviously, the world first comps played a little bit more range than melee, but overall, I would say range and melee, it is a good tier for it. It wasn't one of those Crucible tiers where it's like 14 range, 0 melee.
It honestly feels like you can play anything, except for maybe Hunter.
I do think that there are some specs that are, specs specifically that are doing way better than others, but in terms of at least melee versus range, seemed good. Healers, oh no.
Yeah,
Healers
this
was
is the real problem.
Double disc, double priest on basically double disc, double holy paladin on basically every fight, except for like Guardian where it was double disc, 4 holy paladins.
4 holy paladins in one fight.
Yeah.
Plus a prop paladin and a rev valley.
How many tiers in a row does it make that where it's priest paladin dominance? Is this like basically every single tier except for since Uldir is last time it was like priest paladin dominance?
We could take a look at all of Echo's kills. So Sanctum obviously was like that. Castle Nathria.
Obviously.
Yep,
like that.
There was one Resto Shaman in there. And I think there probably was in Nyalotha as well. Oh, okay, Nyalotha, their guild didn't exist as a guild back then. So I could go look at Limit instead.
When did their guild form too? Hold on. Yeah,
okay, so Limit had something went wrong.
No, not like this.
An internal dude, the priests, they don't want us to know. Okay, well,
it's basically every single tier since Uldir, but
I do think answer. What was the healing comp in Antorus? Does anybody remember?
Oh god, I think you could play. Disc was really, really stupid in Antorus, and Paladin was good because of Bubble on Argus specifically. So I suspect it was more of the same, where it was Pally plus Priest.
Okay, here's Method versus Argus World First. What do we have here?
They probably had a Priest healer in.
Yeah, I can't really see.
Great raid frames.
Lorgok UI. Okay, I can raise the quality. Maybe it'll change to somebody else's perspective. Aha, okay. Healing. Looks like they 3-healed this boss with 1 paladin, 1 priest, and 1 shaman. So yeah, I mean that's also pretty familiar, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DRs are good. Damage reductions are very strong.
Yep.
There's no possible way that they could have foreseen this for 8 tiers in a row.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's another case where it's just like, I mean, those 2 healers have all the passive damage part of their rotation, and they have the damage reduction cooldowns. Like, maybe split those up. Maybe some healers can do damage and some have DRs. Maybe that would be a good first step towards this, instead of concentrating all of it in 2 specs.
What do you guys feel about Ashen Hallow being added on top of the H-Pal stuff?
Ashen Hallow should not have gone to Paladin. That is what I feel. I feel like Ashen Hallow should have gone to, like, I don't know.
Mistweaver.
Yeah.
Mistweavers, yeah. Dude, give monks Ashen Hallow. That would have owned. I don't know. It is definitely... I mean, it's so good. Ashen Hallow is so good for high-end rating.
Well, Squishy brings up a good point in chat, too. PI to Priest this expansion as well.
True.
Like, Ashen Hallow and PI on already the best raid healers, like, that just seals the deal.
Yeah, I think I tweeted that, the, like, drowning, like, the parent who's, like, giving a lot of attention to one kid while another one's drowning. And that I tweeted that with Priest and Paladin as the ones getting attention, and, like, Shaman drowning, and then at the bottom of the lake is Resto Druid, Mistweaver, Holy Priest.
Dude, please. I want, like, 1 tier of different healer diversity. I think every healer is like, please save me from this one more time.
Tanks, on the other hand, we got it. We got this tier. Tank diversity this tier.
Yeah,
play whatever the hell you want. They're all good. I mean,
honestly, play whatever the hell you want.
Prot Paladin does kind of slap. Very good for World First. Death Knight, a lot of utility on a lot of fights. Monk brings monk buff. Very strong. But you know what? Warrior, Guardian, whatever the last tank that I've forgotten to
Vengeance.
name.
Vengeance is probably the worst.
It is the worst of them this tier, but it's not by much. People are playing Vengeance in, like, I think top 20, doing fine.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to that, the reason that Vengeance also isn't seen a lot is because Havoc is also very silly.
Right. Havoc is unbelievably good this tier, but
kind of the same as like Prot Warrior. The reason you're not seeing that's because Arms is nuts, like actually just top DPS.
Yeah, Arms is good.
Overall, tank balance is phenomenally good this tier, though, and a huge amount of credit, I think, goes to whoever balanced the tanks this tier.
Good job on tank balance, though.
They actually really didn't have any tank changes, though. That's the funny part.
Well, they were doing tweaking over the course of 9.0, right? Like, they did, like, 3 tank balance tweaks, right? They gave Vengeance a little bit less DR than the others, and...
well, true. I mean, that was because they had to fix a bug where Vengeance was
True.
unkillable to magic damage.
That was fun.
But every tank spec was brought up, which was good. That was definitely a good thing. I also want to mention, though, Prop Paladin doing 12k single target burst and ending up with higher boss damage than Windwalkers in some cases is kind of insane.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think tanks are pretty balanced.
Yeah.
Ashen's got to go, man.
I think Prop Paladin's actually in a good spot right now. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it's doing a little bit too much damage, but I think that sacrificing some defense for some offense is a cool design for a tank.
I don't think it's specifically Prot Paladin related, but I think Ashen is just...
Yeah, Ashen is offensive for sure.
That button is not okay.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Tormented, as we've now had several weeks of Tormented, including this beautiful Fortified Bullstring Quaking week. Fortified Bullstring welcoming back from the time it was lobbed from the Affix calendar in Legion.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Awful.
Difficult, challenging week, for sure. I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, reasonable to complain about a tough week on the calendar. On the other hand, it's nice that there are some tough Fortified weeks now, and it's not all just tough tyrannical weeks.
Honestly, I don't mind it so much because we're still at the beginning of the patch, but I think bolstering is always
Yeah, bolstering
more.
sucks.
It's always like a bigger headache later in the patch when you've already kind of figured out the pulls and the routes that you want to do, and you're like, oh, now I got to go 4 to 5 minutes slower in this dungeon all of a sudden. Whereas right now, this week, we're still ramping in power quite a bit, and you can still progress key levels if you're a group looking to do that.
It is
So
nice
at least
that
it's not too bad.
it's nice that unlike Prideful as well, you have some options with your pathing, right? Like if you went into Sanguine Depths and you had a route that didn't get you 20% onto the first boss, it's like, what are you doing, right? Whereas now it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you can skip some stuff, you can be at less than 20, you can do all the stuff, be more than 20, whatever. It's all
It
fine.
also, I mean, there's also the AABB rotations for the Tormented mobs.
Yes.
I guess it's not confirmed, but it very much looks like it now that we've gotten the rotation back, and it was what it was at the beginning.
Right, so Tormented, like Awakened, there's two different like placements, not locations, but like which mob is in each location.
Two are stationary, two move.
Yeah, much like again, like Awakened, and then it rotates every 14 days rather than every 7, which, yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I
I
think
like the no-solved routing, though. I think
Yeah.
that's like a pretty good thing where it will,
Oh yeah.
at least for like later in the patch. Okay, so at the beginning of the patch, I would say that the highs of having Prideful were a lot higher, whereas right now Tormented kind of feels like it doesn't do a lot, more or less. But towards the end of the season, oh, man, Prideful kind of sucked.
Yeah. I think that the anima
Agreed.
powers themselves are kind of bad. I don't know.
They
Most
are
anima
underwhelming.
most anima power picks, you're like, oh man, what am I gonna get? And then you look at them, and you're like, oh right, they all suck. And then as you start doing more and more keys, you just stop being excited about clicking on the anima box anymore, and it's just like, Sag. And I've seen some people say that that's because it's not RNG. I think that the powers could be exciting if without being RNG, but like 2 of them are good and 20 of them are bad, and they're like boring. I don't know.
Yeah, they're just not balanced. That's why it's not that fun. I mean, I kind of like that they're all like the best ones give you like a couple percent of power boost in some fashion, which I think is good. Too much power is probably bad, but if they brought up the lower ones to the top where the ones we currently pick are, then I think it would be a pretty fun affix.
I mean, DPS only have like 2 options, right?
I think that there are some great powers that they could have given though that would have like okay, you know how on Terragru there's one where it's like, oh, you steal and rage and magic effects from stuff you hit. Why can't we have that power in M+? Like that would be so cool for to help groups. You would take that if you didn't have a soother purge in your group. You wouldn't take it if you did, right? Like those sorts of effects are awesome.
That's dude. I don't understand why we like DPS players only have like 2 of the tormentors give you damage options, and then the other 2 are like really shitty defensive options. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, very cool, thank
Yeah,
you.
or the one that's like you do 10% increased damage to targets you interrupt for 8 seconds.
One target.
One, yeah, it's like
Just the one, yeah.
I mean, dude, like
It should at least give you the 10% damage buff, so you can
yeah,
do
like when you
AoE
interrupt
damage
a
or
target, you
something.
gain 10% damage for. I mean, again, I'm sympathetic to wanting to keep the power level low, but there are low power level exciting effects. You could give powerful utility if you didn't want to give powerful damage as well, but no.
Immune
So-
to fear and stun effects.
I mean, why not? Why can't we have immune to fear and stun effects from Tormented mob?
For like the first boss of Mists or something, that'd be like cool. That'd be actually useful, right?
I mean, it would be useful,
Yeah,
and you would
that'd
take
be
it in
good.
some dungeons, you wouldn't take it in others, and like, I don't know. I don't see why we can't have those sorts of powers, but instead they're just all like these tiny number buffs.
Oh well. I mean, it's fine.
It's fine
I mean,
though. Yeah, it's much better than it being like if there were some good powers and some bad ones, especially then if it was RNG, which ones you got offered, like that would make it so it was an exciting moment to click on your thing, but also it would make it so that you would want to hearth out when you didn't get a good one, and that would suck. So yeah, overall, as the season progresses, I'm pretty excited about the affix. I think it should be a fun one to push keys on. Shadowlands dungeons are, on the whole, I think a little bit less exciting to me than BFA ones were. But I think a good affix, I could see myself playing a bit of M+ this season.
No matter what the tuning is on the powers, it's going to be a fun season because this is the first season of Shadowlands where you can actually freely pull the dungeon. And so everyone's going to have a good time just like making their own routes and doing what they want and not suffering from one DPS player accidentally rolling into a pack. and pulling it and ruining the route. Like it just doesn't throw off the pride timings anymore. And now you can do what you want. So despite the seasonal affix being whatever it is, it'll still be a good time, at least for this season.
How have you been feeling about the Keystone Master change, Trell? The change to making it score based.
I'm trying to be non-biased about it because I got it on the first Tuesday of Mythic, like within 5 keys before raid. I got it because I'd done all the keys the previous week. I think it's fine. I think if you spend a couple hours a week doing it, you can have KSM within 3 or 4 weeks, depending on what players you play with. But it is definitely really bad for alts. That's something I hadn't thought about.
Well,
having to prog all the way up to 2K on KSM is bad.
Okay, let's just say the KSM change isn't the reason that alt KSM is different. The difference is that now it's not an account-wide upgrade thing. Like you still, that is the change they made, not the change to like make KSM score based that makes it worse for alts.
KSM also feels strangely easy this season, where it's like the barrier to entry is doing the 20 dungeons as opposed to like there's no progression of the 20 dungeons. You can just do a 15 right now, it feels like. Maybe it's because last season the gear like progression was a lot steeper with going from 184s to 226s over the course of the whole entire patch. Whereas right now you're kind of at a level where you can do a 15. But man, you can just like blast 15s in Group Finder all day right now, whereas you could not do that last patch.
I mean, I think to some extent that is just like geared Mythic Raiders from previous tier have a good time, at the start of a new tier, but not at the start of a new expansion, right? At the start of a new expansion, you are way under geared compared to the 15s, and so like everybody has progression for those until you're clearing Mythic Nathria, Mythic Uldir.
True, and you probably also know the dungeons a little bit better.
Right. And I think there are people that aren't geared and like don't get invited to the groups that are timing 15s as easily because they're much lower item level and don't have the score and stuff. That are still, I think for those players, I mean, I've heard reports both ways, but I believe if I was in that case, I would enjoy pushing score more than just like ticking boxes of like get this dungeon done on 15. I think the score is
so
cool.
Too.
Yeah.
The score is a nice addition. I think there's still work they need to do, but it does make that process more fun. I also think the tank power this season being a little bit higher than last is a big factor for pugs, especially. When you join a pug group and the tank doesn't have to worry about every single millisecond of that dungeon on a 15, whether they're going to live or not, it's going to be a better time.
Agree. I think tank power was a huge problem with Season 1, and I'm glad that it is. Yeah. It seems to be... I would say it's fixed this season. I think tanks are in a fine spot now for M+.
Yeah, if it's anything to go by, I'm having a blast so far. Doing 21s already with like heroic eye level on my Brewmaster feels great. I'm very excited.
That's awesome. All right, let's move on.
Back to Great Push. That'd be cool. I'm ready.
Maybe, yeah.
Hopefully.
Let's move on to our thanking of the patrons segment. Hope that everybody has, had a good couple weeks. Now we are back to continue providing the show for you, especially you, the patrons, who are Paul of US Tichondrius, Coom Cubine of US Tichondrius, Riley, Gainful Employment is Not Fun, Ja, Dratnos' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Never Nude, Chewy, Eloon. Oh my god, there's no way I can pronounce this Night Elf stuff, man. Wow.
Trell?
Okay.
Trell speaks Nelf.
Wait, Trell, do you speak Night Elf? Do you keep out here? I'll highlight it for you.
Arama Shnala Fasima Namelia Brana.
Delete Gaming. It's not AMZ, it's AMZ. Salty Zenny. Necros, Tankdill, Nevuk, Sinmora, Eevee, Slappy Hands on Dormazane gives me purpose. Yeah, that Slappy Hands ability is really good on that fight.
OP.
Stevenson, love the Constantinople bit. Take Light of the Protector and Frenzied Regen off the GCD. No Trick, I schedule a Tettle's Flame. Sire Maticus now resides on US Zul'jin. Hey, that's the same server as Tettles. Dymat. Paint stick figures are the best way to explain raid strats. Thanks Blizzard for making KSM so free this tier. To everyone participating in Race to World First, good luck and have fun. Van Heelen, Brusif, Tranos Abyss, I hope you enjoyed Texas. M Sanity, Tettles is now changing the one about everyone in Race to World First having fun, because that is no longer timely. Xena, Weird Praying Hanny will pump in 9.1. M Sanity, I don't know if I already said that one, but I kind of lost my place. Rogue is now good enough for Prog, but still bad enough to be sat for SLG. Never have to do SLG again.
Bless up.
My goodness, bless up.
Thank God.
Red Color, Some Zero VS Dichondrius, YouTube.com/Workbringer, Ahara VS Proudmore, KOZ's Mythic Team is Trash Cans and not Trash Cants, Snicker Shelby, Alphabet Soup, Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming, Roly Poly, Number 1 Simpsky for Trelsky, and Indeterminate Cloth DPS and Lolari. Thanks all for the support.
And Nix, who I messed up their name.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Q&A. First one comes from Polymorphs, who asks, do you think any of the M+ anima powers need to be buffed? Okay, we actually kind of talked about this, but
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Next one comes from Morsha in Discord, who asks, if anyone does or plans to swap around Domination, Shards, and M+ versus Raid, made this cute little weaker to tell you if a set bonus is missing in Raid/Korthia/Torghast lobby. That owns. Okay, we'll link that in the description and stuff for anybody who wants to find this thing. Domination Shard set bonus missing. That'll just tell you if you're missing a set bonus in a place where it could be active. Definitely send that one to whichever guildie of yours does not yet have a set bonus, so that it reminds them for the entire raid of their failings. Next question comes from Polymorphs, who asks, with content creators like Preach leaving the WoW scene, how do you guys feel about the overall state and direction of the game? Which is definitely, I think Preach leaving the scene, we covered it a little bit at the top, but man, that's big
It's pretty
sad.
scary, yeah.
Yeah.
The Activision stocks went down like 10% this last week, by the way.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, of course, but
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yeah. Direction of game, it's tough. Okay, so it feels a little,
It's not because of Breach.
right. It's because of
Right,
it's
just
because of
concerned about the
the
game
sexual
in
harassment and the workplace harassment, all those things. That's the reason the stock went down. It's not because of the direction of the game, but the direction of the game, I think, is a valid concern for players as well. Obviously, much smaller in terms of like how lives are impacted than the sexual harassment, the workplace stuff. Like, my goodness, that's serious IRL stuff. But in terms of the game stuff, I think that's been bad in a lot of cases. Yeah, this expansion, people talk about it. WoW has been able to bounce back from bad expansions before, but back-to-back bad ones is not not something that we've really done before. And I think there's good arguments that that's what's happening right now, that we're in the second, expansion with serious flaws.
Dude, if you're not if you don't have like a consistent raid guild, this is not
raiding
a
is
great time.
Raiding is an island in the game right now. Like, raiding an island in the good way, not in the way that we've all been conditioned to think island bad, but like it's an island of good and a sea of bad in the game. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, the raids have been fantastic. The last like 5 raids have all been all-stars or close to it. They've had their SLGs and stuff, but it's been mostly great content. But looking at all the stuff outside of the raid, the stuff with locking you to your covenant, restricting build creativity and experimentation, Shards domination just being a system that serves absolutely no purpose, like no fun being had by anybody as a result of that system, just pain.
Requiring all 4 covenants to be in your key group to be relevant. That's really the point.
Dude,
AoE capping, we don't talk about it as much as these other things, but like I think the expansion is hugely held back from being a good Mythic Plus expansion by the existence of just this AoE cap that
oh my god, the AoE cap.
It saps so much fun from the game.
Did you remember during beta the things we're complaining about? AoE cap, not being able to swap covenants, and then covenant specific dungeon buffs. So it all still suck. All 3 of those things, they're still just bad. They're still just bad.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's also like, man, looking through LFG, the amount of groups that are like plus 16 halls, Venthyr only, and it's like 4 people in the group and just Venthyr only, we're looking for a Venthyr. Like, man, is that really what they wanted? Like, is that really the experience that
who could have possibly predicted this?
Right. I don't know.
Nobody. Not the players, definitely.
So Preach, I don't blame him for leaving the WoW scene. I think that the game has taken a lot of inexplicable steps recently, and I hope that they much more importantly, I hope they fix the course internally at the company, but I also hope that they change their mind on next expansion, making such restrictive systems. Like, I think that the best expansions in WoW's history have been the ones where, you have these builds that are just exciting and cool and you get to play them. And this expansion is like, you have to commit to your build and like, do 4 weeks of grinding for it, and then you get to play it. And if you want to try something else, well, you have to give up the one you're currently playing before you can go play the new one. It's like, that's such the opposite of what I want to be doing in a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't anticipate leaving the WoW scene in the immediate future.
Yeah.
Largely because there's, as much as WoW has like fallen off of what it was like in Legion, and to some extent BFA even, there's not another game that's particularly close on these measures either right now. So there's not really a ship to hop to, as it were. But
Right.
It's definitely, I mean, it's definitely sad to see.
I think it's just something that's on our minds, but like we're all trying to stay positive about it.
Yeah.
Even though we complain about the really specific things that we've endured as players, but
That's the thing,
hopefully
it's like,
things get better.
Raid is sweet. Raid's great this season. Mythic Plus, there's a lot of exciting steps in a good direction. There've been a lot of good hot fixes. I think that they're hamstrung by stuff like the AoE cap, but a lot of the micro decisions and updates they've been making to M Plus and to tank balance and all that stuff, this expansion, there's been a lot of good moves there. It seems like there's some vision statements that were made this expansion that are really holding it back, and should have been changed a year ago and would still be good if they were changed now. What do you think of the new affix rotation so far? Is a new question coming in anonymously. I think it's pretty good. I don't know. There's like, this week is kind of a rough one, but of the 5 weeks we've seen, like 3 of them have been potential push weeks, including a tyrannical week.
I
Yeah.
think
Good to
that
me.
the fortified weeks look a little bit more tough than the tyrannical weeks now, which is probably how it should have been as a whole. But at the same time, I think we need to see the remainder of the calendar to really make a good assessment. But man, affixes feel like they're still just probably too punishing. The more and more we end up playing with them, it's just like you have shit like inspiring and whatnot, and inspiring and bolstering and necrotic, and you're like, okay, man, these are too much.
Agreed. I think tyrannical is going to become a problem again once we get to higher key levels, of course.
As it always does.
I don't know. I'm kind of optimistic. I think the tyrannical push weeks, hopefully in the calendar now, mean, and the fact that you need it for score anyways, I think there's a good chance we will see more high key done on like more weeks of the calendar than in previous seasons. Probably not all 12.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
But I think like 6 to 8 weeks being weeks where people play and gain score at a high level is way better than a lot of previous seasons. Do you guys remember BFA season 3, where there were 3 good weeks on the calendar and they were all
God, yeah.
bursting fortified enchanted weeks? That was a banger.
Yeah, that was the worst offender. But I think even between dungeons on the same tyrannical week, there's going to be some heavy imbalance. Like, a lot of bosses were made more bearable on tyrannical this patch, luckily, and praise to the devs who did that. Like, they fixed the second boss of Spires pretty well. That's now not nearly as bad. Hakar is a lot better.
Hakar was a beautifully crafted change for sure.
But there are still some bosses, like the first boss of Theater is brutal on high keys.
All of the bosses
Especially on
in
Necrotic.
theater. All
Dude,
of the
what do you
theater
mean?
bosses.
Yeah,
Or
actually all the
Ursox
bosses.
Fury remembered? Thrash? Hello? So free.
Hello?
So, dude, you just walk in there, you're dealing 10k HPS, your healer's like, what am I supposed to do right now? I guess I'll do damage.
I guess I'll die.
Yeah, and then your incarn falls off, and they have to heal you a lot all of a sudden, and you're like, ah!
What do I do now?
Yeah. All right, and our final question comes from I'm Andy, who asks, wait, I just joined. Where is Trell's bike? Trell, care to explain yourself?
I
It's at
thought
my
it was
friend's house right now.
I thought it was a kitchen ornament.
It's
Yeah,
being worked on.
Ooh,
I see.
okay. Getting some cool bike mods. All right, well, we hope to see it in a future week. I think painting some stripes down the side makes it go faster, and you should definitely
Some
consider that.
streamers. Some
Oh, yeah.
streamers on the handlebars. Yes.
Yeah, some
and-
streamers on my mountain bike.
I think if you get there, you can get these 2 little wheels out of the back that make it much more stable. I've always had more fun on bikes when they have those. So consider getting some of those.
True.
And
some
on that
add-ons.
note, that will be the end of our show this week. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope to be back next week for a episode 100, even equally as great as the first 99. Bye, everybody. Later.
Bye.